Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Charles the Banster, and welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things. And we sit them in, folks. We've got an interesting show in store for you guys. Before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Today, there's something that I want to get off my chest. As you guys know, there's been this movement of NBA players and NBA fans trying to disrespect players from the past, right? And it's becoming more commonplace. The latest example of this were the crazy comments that Anthony Edwards made, where he basically came out there and said that, look, they say it was tougher back then. He said the only player that had skill in the past was Michael Jordan. And he goes, the reason why, and then when they saw Kobe, that's why he said, and that's why when they saw Kobe, they were like, wow. But he goes, now everybody today has skill. Anthony Edwards is being flame broiled all over the internet for those ridiculous, ignorant comments. But the question then becomes, when did all of this start? What was the genesis of all of this? So I began to sit back and think, and as I was doing research for the various shows today, I began to think, I'm like, when did all of this start? And then a name came to my mind. And who was that name? JJ Redick. As you guys know, JJ Redick is now currently the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. But before he took the position, JJ Redick was a podcaster and an NBA analyst that worked on ESPN. And he would go there weekly to go there and talk basketball. And initially when JJ got the job, we produced the show expressing our excitement for JJ, and we even wondered, and we put the question in the title of the video. We were like, is JJ Redick going to bring a breath of fresh air to sports media with him joining ESPN? And it turns out that he brought some air, but it wasn't fresh. It was some stinking smelling air of him basically going on television and twerking it up every single day and knocking over people's drinks and getting into arguments with people like Chris Mad Dog Russo, right? And there was a particular exchange that took place on ESPN First Take that I personally believe that kick-started this rampant disrespect we see towards players like Michael Jordan and his era. And that exchange had to do with some comments that JJ Redick made about Bob Cousy and players of the past, and that's what really kicked off this entire thing. So for those of you who don't remember what JJ Redick had to say then, want to play for you now as a quick refresher. It's a short clip, and then want to come back and really get into this. Take a listen to JJ Redick there.
He lost that series when he was on the Clippers. Missed 4 free. Was it 2 or 4 free throws?
No. I was on the team. It was
he missed
a
some
turnover.
Free throws.
He fouled Russell Westbrook, and then he turned it over on the last play.
Didn't he miss some 2 free throws?
There was no free throws involved.
How about last year in one of the games against Milwaukee? Didn't he have 5 points in Game 5 against the Bucks and was awful in a game?
Okay.
If you are an NBA Hall of Famer.
What about the entire Lakers series where he couldn't shoot a basketball? Physically couldn't raise his shoulder and arm above his head, and he gutted it out and beat the Lakers.
I give him, he did the good
so
job.
Does he get credit for that?
We are putting him on this level of the all-time greats. When you put him on the level of the all-time greats, you can't have these kind of games.
Is he an all-time great, JJ?
You can't put.
He's absolutely an all-time
point guard.
He's an all-time great point guard.
Without question.
If he wins a championship, he's in the conversation for the greatest point guard ever. I'm not saying he's the
no, he's not. The greatest point guard. He's not Bob Cousy. He's not Bob Cousy.
Bob Cousy couldn't dribble with his left hand.
Bob Cousy changed the game. Chris Paul didn't change the game.
Bob Cousy won championships when there were 8 teams in the NBA and you had to win 2 playoff series.
Guys,
Let's celebrate Bob Cousy in his era, but you can't compare pre-1980 with
yes, you can.
With the modern
yes,
NBA. No, you cannot. No, you cannot.
Well, how about Weston Oscar? Can you compare Cousy with Weston Oscar?
The great players could play in any era. There's no doubt about that.
Cousy was first team All-NBA when Weston Oscar were playing. And he was first team All-NBA. That's against Weston Oscar.
Well,
first team All-NBA. Has Paul ever been first team All-NBA?
Did Bob Cousy ever shoot over 40% from the field in his
we
career?
understand that.
Did he ever shoot over 40%?
Probably 39, 40%. Different kind of game.
Not once.
Not
once.
That's fair. He also had 29 assists in an NBA game.
Oh, well, he was being guarded by plumbers and firemen.
So you heard what JJ Redick had to say there, right? That basically Bob Cousy was playing against a bunch of firemen and plumbers. Those comments that he made caused NBA legends to come out and absolutely destroy JJ Redick. And one of the first voices that came out was Jerry West, and he absolutely leaned into his ass. So for those of you who didn't hear what Jerry West had to say, want to play what he had to say for you now, and then want to come back and continue on. Take a listen to Jerry West responding to the crazy comments of JJ Redick. Take a listen to that there.
JJ Redick, a current player who just recently retired, said that Bob Cousy played against firemen and plumbers, and Bob came on and wasn't too pleased. And, you know, you played in that era, and those guys set the table for us to be where we are today. And I was just interested in your thoughts on comments like that about your generation and the generations that paved the way.
Well, obviously the game is completely different. The athletes are completely different. And I know JJ just a little bit. He's a very smart kid and everything. Look, tell me what his career looked like. What did he do that determined games? He averaged 12 points a game in the league. Somewhere along the way, numbers count. At that point in time, the players aren't what they used to be. JJ certainly wasn't going to guard the elite players. And so you can nitpick anyone. And I'm not, the only reason I'm talking about him is because he was not an elite player, but he was a very good player. But he had a place on the team because of his ability to shoot the ball. But those players at that era, and again, that was when I started to see the difference in athleticism. You know, my era, I was an athlete way before my time. I had a huge vertical. Probably no one in the league was much faster than me. And certainly the competitive part of it, I would put myself among any player that played the game. Today also, winning is all that matters. That's what drove me. And I subtly got better every year. We didn't have the facilities to get better. We had to work in the summers to support our family. But AJ should be very thankful that he's made as much money as he's made. And Bob Cousy, who I played against a couple of years, not very long, I just think it's very disrespectful myself.
So you heard what Jerry West had to say in response to JJ Redick there, but it didn't stop there. Not only was he disrespecting players from the past, he was also disrespecting the way the game was played, and in the midst of that, or in the process of that, also disrespecting or insulting our intelligence by basically saying that players that played in the 80s and the 90s, there wasn't really any physicality. There was no physicality. And that he studied a lot of video footage that proves that Larry Bird and Michael Jordan and all of these guys did not play in a physical era. For those of you sitting there saying, wait, JJ Redick actually said that the 80s and the 90s weren't physical? Yes, he did. For those of you who don't believe me, take a listen to this man here.
I am old school, as we all know. JJ, perfect. But, you know, Bird shot plenty of threes. And they had Parrish and McHale. Bird shot plenty of threes. The best. And Bird is one of the great shooters in the history of the sport. Not even close.
Bird shot threes. He never was a volume shooter from three.
No, I know that, but he was a great three-point shooter. He was not good. He was great. He's one of the top 5 three-point shooters of all time. That's how good Bird is. Oh, yes. Won three-point shooting contests. He was phenomenal. Bird's a great shooter.
Wait a minute,
and Bird didn't shoot.
Bird is absolutely one of the greatest shooters ever, but he's not one of the top 5 three-point, top 3, whatever you just said.
Did you see the three-point shooting that he put on, those clinics that he put on at the All-Star game?
Again,
did you watch?
Doggy, it's just math. It's attempts, it's makes, and it's percentage. And there's no way you could ever argue Larry Bird is a top 3 three-point shooter of all time. You can't make that argument.
You're basing it on math. You're basing it on math and a time of when he played. I'm basing it on just shooting. Bird is a unbelievable.
Again, we had this discussion the other day. About James Naismith. James Naismith invented the game. You were rewarded for putting the ball in the basket. There's plenty of people that have shot more, made more, and guess what? Made more at a higher percentage than Larry Bird from 3. I'm not saying Larry Bird is not one of the greatest shooters ever. He's not one of the greatest three-point shooters ever.
Yes,
you cannot make that argument.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Because the 80s is so much different. There's physicality, the way they guarded people. You couldn't.
Can we get
Dougie, I've been trying to make a point.
Seriously,
I've been trying to make a point for you, Dougie.
Come on, man.
I've been trying to make a point. Hold on, guys.
Physicality, Jay. I mean,
hey,
you don't think that counts?
You know what? You and I are going to sit down. We're going to sit there and we're going to watch finals games from the 1980s.
But Jay, here's the difference.
I'm going to show you what physical basketball is versus physical fouling.
You watching them on YouTube. I saw the games. I watched the games at the time. I watched all these games. You didn't watch it. You weren't alive when these games were being played. Did you see Bird play against the Lakers in '84? Did you see Bird against the Rockets in '86? Were you at courtside watching these games? No. You got to watch the games at the time. Okay. Watching them on YouTube 40 years later is not the same at the moment. So watching a ball
Let me ask you a question then. When I watch, let's say Steph Curry, for example.
Right.
When I watch Steph Curry off the ball in a playoff game.
Oh, he's great.
Getting grabbed and held by Marcus Smart. They're attached to him at all times.
Right.
Then when I watch Larry Bird come off a pin down and no one's within 5 feet of him and they're shooting the gap. You're telling me one is more physical than the other?
So you heard what JJ had to say there. Those comments that he made caused NBA legend Dominique Wilkins to publicly respond to him and call him stupid for what he was saying. For those of you who didn't hear what Dominique had to say, take a listen to him here.
There was a debate on ESPN with a former player in JJ Redick just recently, and they were debating Bird and Curry. And one of the things they said is that Redick said is that Curry has faced more physicality. We called him out on.
Let me say something. Yeah. First of all, Redick don't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm gonna say it right.
I agree.
He don't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm like, what basketball was you watching? To say something as idiotic as that is ridiculous. The physicality that was a part of the league. Hey, look. When you can put your hand on a guy's hip and make him go a certain way, if you can put that elbow in his chest to slow him up, which we call slowing a guy up when you coming down the lane, so how many guys can deal with that type of pressure? And for J.J. Redick, who've played this game, I'm very disappointed that he has said something so stupid. This is the thing I'm having a problem with. Bird, who's a big guy, who got bumped all the time. You know, we played around the basket more than guards played around the basket. So I don't understand the logic for him saying that. Yeah. When clearly those big guys, even to the big guys today, they get touched a little bit more than little guys because they're around the basket. So it just don't make sense when this is the thing I hate the most. We had our time. It was a great time. It's their time now.
Yes.
But don't crap on us to prove your point.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense and it's not valid.
Yeah.
But the same thing they look at Sam and myself, the old guys hating.
No,
hating on what? I don't hate on these guys.
You're responding right now.
Yeah.
You're not.
I don't hate on these guys. These guys are great. I just don't like the disrespect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to say that about Larry Bird, it was less physical. Is he stupid?
Back MVP.
It's just a stupid comment to make. I mean, it ain't got nothing to do with Steph Curry or Larry.
Yeah.
It's the content.
Exactly. We just broke down the end result.
It doesn't make sense. And he should know better than that.
Yeah.
And I don't care what he feel about me, what his response might be. But when I hear that, and I'm like, you really don't know, do you?
You heard what Dominique Wilkins had to say, right? This is an NBA top 75 guy saying that, because there were people that heard what JJ Redick had to say and said, well, he's a former NBA player. And what do you know? You didn't play in the NBA. You see, a lot of crazy fans like to hide their crazy views behind the fact that, well, he's an NBA player. And then what happens is when an NBA player with rank, a legend, comes out there and calls out that nonsense, you can't find these people anymore. And that's essentially what happened. Now, if you guys remember, he made some comments about plumbers and firemen and all of that, and talking about they were playing against plumbers and firemen. Well, it turns out there was a conversation that took place between Charles Barkley, who's another top 50 player, top 75 guy, and Stephen A. Smith. And they were talking about the current state of affairs in the NBA today. And in the midst of that, Charles Barkley himself decided to take a shot at this era, talking about all they do is have they giving out a bunch of huge contracts to a bunch of firemen and plumbers, because they're giving money to everybody in the NBA today, it seems, whether you can play or not. For those of you who didn't hear Charles Barkley responding to JJ Redick's comments, take a listen to Chuck here.
Because I challenge you on this. I get your point, and you're right for the most part. What I would say to you is this. I think what's changed is when a player goes to the negotiating table and you looking for $200, $300 million deals. You saying I'm that dude. I'm that dude that can take you there. This is why I deserve this money. And so as a result of that, people going to look at that and say, okay, if this is the investment that we need to make in you in order to get you to wear this uniform, there's a stipulation that comes with that, which I think is fair in that regard. When you go into the negotiating table and you say you're the man.
Well, first of all, that's not even fair because we're paying bombs today, Stephen A., and you know it.
Yeah, you got me there.
Listen,
you got me there.
And I don't want to offend anybody, but we're paying janitors, we're paying plumbers. we're just giving $200 or $300 million out like candy, man. I mean, and listen, and I'm not mad. You get what you deserve, whatever they pay you. I just hope you appreciate that. You know what? I'm the luckiest dude in the world. I was born at the right time. But man, it has nothing to do with the money anymore. We're paying everybody in the NBA.
That's fair.
So you heard what he had to say, right? You heard what he had to say. What are my thoughts on all of this? Look, I believe JJ is the one that started this. I believe he's the one that gave confidence to these people that think that they're discrediting. There was even a point where people were making videos of, oh, Michael Jordan can't dribble with his left. He can't even go left. Just imagine. There were people actually saying that Michael Jordan cannot dribble with his left hand. And they thought they were actually saying something until people started pulling up footage of players playing today. And they were like, oops. There's a lot of low IQ basketball that takes place in the NBA today. Oops. We need to figure out a way to delete that. I believe JJ is the reason all of this kicked off. I believe that he is the catalyst for the disrespect that we see towards players from the past today. I believe he's the reason. And now what we're seeing is more NBA players going out there and saying crazy stuff. That's what's happening, because I think that these guys have figured out the only way for me to endear myself with the younger audience is to trash players from the past. So a lot of these guys will sell their soul. A lot of them will go out there and stand flat-footed in front of a microphone and spew all kind of nonsense and grift to this younger audience if it means that they're going to be able to make some damn money. That's what's happening. So if you want to know who the person is to blame for all this, blame JJ Redick. Blame him. And what I think needs to happen is we need to have more legends calling out some of the players today that are saying these crazy things and really put them in their place. That's the first thing. The second thing I've noticed is this. The people that are discrediting the past are players that are not even accomplished. I've noticed that. Players that are talking, you have yet to hear one top 75 or one top 50 player come out there and endorse any of these comments. You've yet to hear it. It's just one-time all-star. I played 10 years. I played 12 years. I was a 10th pick, 15th pick. It's these guys. You never hear any top-of-the-shelf talent come out there and say some of the nonsense that these guys were saying. And man, this makes me miss people like Kobe Bryant. Can you imagine if Kobe Bryant was alive today and they put a microphone in front of him and they asked him these questions to respond to some of the idiotic comments that these guys are making? He would make these guys look like fools. I'm going to say something and I mean it. When Kobe died, the brains of the NBA went. What do I mean by that? Kobe was one of the smartest guys to play basketball. And with his passing, we got a lot of stupid guys that play basketball that are talking sports. I'm sorry to say it. Not only was Kobe better than these dudes, he was smarter than these dudes. In real life, he was more articulate than them. He could reason better than them. He was more of a global ambassador, personality than them, global citizen than them. So when he spoke, Kobe could appeal to any NBA fan anywhere in the world, whether or not you're in the United States or in some other country around the world. So when Kobe left, the intellect left as well. Because Kobe, when we talk about people talking basketball at an elite level, they can speak it at an intellectual level. He was at the peak. And in the absence of Kobe, we have all of these morons talking basketball. I mean what I'm saying. Kobe was a smarter person than all of these dudes, including your beloved JJ Redick. including him, because maybe some of you think, well, he speaks so well, so maybe no. Kobe was smarter than JJ Redick. Let's not even get that twisted. He was a smarter person, and the evidence was his life and the things that he was doing. And that's also the problem. We don't have any smart players pushing back on this nonsense. It's just one ignorant comment after the other. I mean that. I sincerely mean that. There were levels. Kobe was at a different level than these dudes. Playing the game, talking the game, teaching the game. These are my thoughts. Whoever gets offended, be offended. I meant 100% of what I just said. These are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comments, and we'll catch you guys on the next show. Peace.